Started this morning. Perfect. All right. Good morning, everybody. It's good to have you this morning. I'm Keith Mathis. If you don't know who I am, today in our webinar this month, we're going to be dealing with AI in action, how to successfully implement AI across your organization. And if you're already in the middle of this, then you already know that this is a huge challenge trying to take that new technology and be able to apply it to your current situation and trying to get value out of it. And so I want to talk about some things that, and I've brought in some research from this past year of people writing about some of the challenges with AI. Maybe you're at a place where you're looking at it, but you haven't started your project yet. So hopefully some of this will give you some good insight into these areas. So the first part that I want to make sure you understand is the idea of how do you know you're ready to implement AI? This seems to be one of the things. Well, a lot of times people will look at AI and they think, oh, it's a new technology. We want new technology. It's going to be kind of cool. It's something new. We're innovative, and that's going to do it. And then what they're finding is that something like 80% of the AI projects right now keep being reported that they're failing. They're not bringing the value, or the technology is not bringing the not only the value but the speed or changing of the process is the way they thought they were going to, because they implemented it bad. So we want to talk about some of those initiatives today. So first off, how do you know that you're ready to implement it? Really, there's three sides to this stool of implementation. You've got the organizational side, the people side, and the data side. And almost everybody who has written about failed projects, these are the three areas that they come back to where something has gone wrong. So let's look at the organizational for a moment. We know where AI fits in our strategy. And so clear problem and goals, executive sponsorship aligned with strategy and roadmap, processes and infrastructure, and change management plan. So it starts with, as we all know, in the organization of, does it align with where the organization's going? Does it align with and make sense for what you're trying to do? And what's interesting is so many times people are wanting the technology, but it doesn't make sense. They could have normal software or normal people doing that job and get the same value, and maybe even more so than using AI. The second would be people readiness. And so our people are prepared, not pressured. So right now we see a gap in people not having the training for artificial intelligence. So what you see is that people are resistant a little bit because they don't know what they're getting into. And in many cases, we don't have enough data scientists around. I heard this morning just on the news that here in Missouri, they're offering a master's at one of the universities in AI so that they can build up and raise up more data scientists across the nation. So the readiness of people is going to be huge. What about roles, responsibilities, training, culture? Do people even trust what they're getting ready to do? Right now, people are so nervous about it in so many cases that companies have that wait and see kind of thing. And I get it. I understand for some of that. The third side is going to be the data side. And oh my gosh, is this not huge? Because our data can our data actually support AI? And so what you're seeing with this is that for many, the whole issue of AI, it requires the data being correct so that people have the capability of being able to use it in training their artificial intelligence tool that they're going to be using. And so this has been an issue. Many organizations have not focused a lot on the data. They've archived it for 50 years, but that data has just kind of been warehoused someplace and not really a management strategy of how to have that data ready. So that has created some of this. So use cases tied to data accessibility, integration, data quality, ownership, who owns it, in the privacy stuff, privacy and security and ethics, all of that associated with the data can be huge as well. All right, so is your data ready? So a couple of things to think about. Let's break it down and do a little bit of a deep dive for you this morning so it's not all just high level superficial, okay? So AI cannot work without data. If you've done any research on this, you know that is the fuel for AI. AI is going to be trained by data, and then it's going to look at real world data, and hopefully you're getting the same output that you expected to get. So data quality is huge. Whether you're using internal data or whether you're buying the data from a data warehouse, the point is that data has to be accurate. It has to be something that's good and work for your industry and for that niche of how you're going to use AI. So data is accurate, low error rates, and then preventing bias. You probably have already seen articles popping up like crazy in the past year where people are using AI to hire people, and they've actually had to go back and put a human in the loop because AI was telling them to hire certain people and was showing bias in much of the hiring process. And the answer is that's absolutely true. And typically a human should be in the process of something like that anyway, just to make sure there is no bias and that certain people are being hired or certain people are being rejected. So structured and labeled data is what is the best type of data that seems to be happening for all types of training in the AI world. But the problem is that sometimes we don't have structured and labeled data. Our data is kind of hodgepodge in a lot of different places. It's not properly labeled. It's not structured. And so what happens is that we're having trouble getting our data up to speed. So do you have enough data? Some of the tools out there, some of the models out there need a lot more data than you do others. And so we might not have enough data. That's the reason why people are purchasing from data warehouses. And so, and then who owns that data when you buy it from the data warehouse? Do we now own it, or are they owning it? And if they own it, are they updating it? Are they correcting everything? So the whole issue of data is huge in looking at something like this. So let's look at some of the processes for successfully implementing this. So let me kind of take you through the full circle here, okay? So establishing a vision and leadership alignment, assessing organizational readiness, identifying high-value use cases, and that's talking about how you're going to use AI in your organization, developing a governance and an ethics framework, building the infrastructure and the data foundations for how and what data you're going to use, developing people and culture so that people are not fearful of it, but they're open to it. But there is going to be a downside with AI. Launching a pilot project to work out some of the bugs, and then, of course, scaling it and integrating it as you roll something like this out from what you've learned from running it as a pilot, and then monitoring, evaluating, improving, and then communicating and reinforcing the change, because there's going to be a significant change for using AI in some of your processes. And in some of the Mickey Mouse stuff that we find people doing, they're not going to have to do. What's going to happen is AI will actually do it automatically. As we look at this, and of course, the focus of this is going to be through the PMO and through the project. But as you look at AI, AI is going to change to where it's going to make recommendations to you. It's going to give you ideas and give you forewarnings of what's happening with the project, maybe even before the project manager knows, or maybe even before the team knows of what's happening with it. And so that's where you're going to see some of the strength. It's working as an assistant for you rather than someone trying to take your job. So the thing is as you look at this, that's what you're looking at, is how can I use this in those type of ways? Now let's talk about implementing AI. So pinpoint the high value opportunities. Some people will say, well, I want it everywhere. That's not realistic. That implementation strategy is not good at all. You want to put it into a safe place to where you have the opportunity for your people to learn and for you to learn. So what's going to bring value to you, a high value to you, but at the same time, you've got the security around it. You've got your arms around this to where if something goes wrong, you can actually back it up if you need to. And then you start putting in the metrics to measure what and how AI is working. So you're measuring what matters. Is it error rates? Is it communication? Is it drop calls with your customers? Is it resolutions and things that it has solved? All of those would make it important in showing the output of this. You're going to strengthen data foundations, stay compliant, accountable with any kind of guidelines, and then scale with confidence. Now, let me back up to the last point for just a moment. Many people don't have a lot of compliance and accountability guidelines and regulations in their organization because all of this is so new. And so organizations are having to do this. We don't have a lot of them as a nation anyway. And most of what we see, we're seeing it from Europe, where Europe seems to be a little bit ahead of us on AI. And so they're coming out and rolling out many of these guidelines. You maybe heard me talk about this before, but I was training project managers from Ukraine last year. And one of the things that came up was that they were already utilizing AI in their projects. And so I was training them on AI, and then it came up in the class that they were using a lot of these already in their project management process and using it as an assistant. And I just thought that was interesting that here you got Ukraine in the middle of a war, and yet their people on technology of AI, they were already ahead of the curve on some of these things. So let's talk about those high value opportunities. You're looking at balancing something that is not going to be so high risk, but something that's not going to be so high cost, and something that you feel like you'll be able to control. So here's a few ideas for you. So pinpoint the high value opportunity. Try to identify 3 to 5 project processes such as scheduling, risk tracking, reporting that is pretty mundane right now, but that AI maybe could help you with. Many of you have already experimented with using some of the AI tools that are out here that's taking notes at some of your meetings and are actually transcribing those notes for you and giving them back to you. And many people are loving those because you didn't like taking notes in the first place, and AI is not missing very much, and it's putting it back into a narrative so that you can put it into your folder, and you've got a tracking record of what was said. But you're looking for some of these places where AI can improve the accuracy or reduce the cycle time or just reduce the mundane stuff that people are having to do. So high value AI use cases are not where tasks are repeated. They are where complex decisions are repeated. But you feel like the AI could take that and do it in a safe manner and give you some ideas. Once again, remember, AI can hallucinate. It can give you some false readings. It can give you some false conclusions. So you're always wanting to have that human in the loop at this stage until all of this matures further and you have trust that this tool is going to work the way it should all the time. And right now, we don't have that trust. We are putting it in. It's exciting to look at it, but you need to still be in the loop to verify the information and the output. The other part, as you look at this, AI projects carry higher uncertainty, higher costs, higher visibility than traditional initiatives. So if the project management office treats AI like a generic IT project, almost across the board, those have been failing. So you're not looking at it as an IT project as much as you are a data project. And that means that you're looking at, once again, what is the right data? Is my data aligned to where AI is going to be able to benefit from that data and be trained properly? And so this has been the biggest piece of that almost everyone who writes about failed AI projects has talked about. We run it as an IT project, and that's where we struggle. It needs to be a data project. So you're not selecting projects, you're selecting where intelligence is going to reshape that performance. Can intelligence giving us a recommendation today rather than me finding out tomorrow afternoon, can that be beneficial? And the answer for most of us would be yes. I'd rather know earlier than later what's going wrong or what could be going wrong with my project. And so could AI give us that kind of forecast? And in some cases it can, not everywhere, but in some cases it can. So decision augmentation and potential. So you identify areas where AI improves human decision quality, not just automation. So you're not just looking to automate something, you're looking for a decision and that recommendation, some of those suggestions. So like for an example, doing a risk analysis. You've come up with your risk, you've done it a lot of years. Your team has come up with a lot of risk, but this project, it happens to be a little new. And so you ask AI, you put some of the scope in there, you put some of the details in there, and you ask it, what risk have I not done? We've listed these risks. What risk would be something that we need to look at? And just look and see what it gives you. Now, it might not give you anything new, but it could give you some things that are there. Or ask it, how are some ways that we might mitigate this that we're not thinking of? And it works as your assistant like this. So examples of this could be predictive schedule, risk modeling, AI-driven resource allocation, intelligent benefits forecasting. So there's a lot of decisions that AI could be making recommendations to us. This is exactly what's happening in other fields like healthcare. AI is making recommendations to doctors after looking at the film of x-rays, and it's picking up that someone has cancer that the doctor maybe didn't pick up. And so now the AI is recommending that they go back and look at this particular area because it thinks it's got cancer. When we hear it from that aspect, we think, oh my gosh, that is a great tool to be able to be used. If they can find cancer on me earlier than later, we want that. However, we have a tendency when it comes into our job like project management to think, well, I don't know if I really want it functioning like that. The next area that we want to look at is data maturity for AI models. So you favor initiatives with structured historical data, labeled outcomes, accessible repositories. And this is a whole different project because our data might not be where it needs to be. And you might not have to have 100% of your data where it needs to be. That doesn't seem to be what's happening in AI, but you do need to have some of your data to where it's structured and AI is being able to read this. Now, some are trying to create AI models that actually will take the unstructured data and make it structured for them. And so I think that's a great idea for a bona fide model to be able to speed some of this up. But the point is, I say all that, regardless of what we're having to do, the data typically is having to be updated in some of our organizations for that. Business outcome dependency. Are we prioritizing AI deployments that influence high impact decisions? portfolio prioritization, risk escalation, or cost forecasting. See that predictability, being able to predict, and AI is not going to be perfect, but that ability to predict and to give us some ideas of where the organization's going or where society's going or where the culture's going. Any of those can give us some ideas of how we might be able to hit that target better and faster. Model reuse and potential. Choose AI projects where models can be reused or extended across multiple portfolios or functions. So the whole thing that we're saying here is not just blindly implement AI. You're implementing it where you think that it's going to benefit you and bring value, but you're also implementing it where you can pull it back if something goes wrong, because we don't have all the stop gaps in place. We don't have all the guardrails that we should at this point in time with our companies or even as a government for AI. So let me share with you, and I'll do this several times for this. This was an interesting piece. This just came out last year by Chapa, one of the researchers, and it said scholarly research finds that AI rollout offers revenue enhancement and cost optimization when organizations focus on quantifiable opportunities and design strategies to capture proprietary data and process advantages. First, mover status with purposeful AI deployment can yield competitive benefits that compound over time, with market forecasts estimating multi-trillion-dollar contributions to global GDP by 2030. Now, think about how close we are to 2030. And what are they saying? They're saying that people who have all of this, are pumping in all of this into pumping all of this into AI, that they are having a benefit from this because they are already starting to see money come out of this. And so as you look at some of these providers, and so just this week, I don't know if you read this, but Google had already put in a couple of billion, like $200 billion into ChatGPT alone. And so you start looking at that and you realize they're putting in so much money into this. This is not a hiccup or just one of those things that's coming along that's going to be gone in 6 months. It's going to be something that is going to be more revolutionary than the internet. And so if you think about what we're doing in the internet right now, and then you compare AI to it, it's going to be more revolutionary, then you want to be part of it. And we've got to figure out how to do it, but do it safely. Don't mistake what I'm saying. Do it in a safe manner, how we're doing this. All right, so there's degrees of AI decision making. So let me break this apart for you. So the first is obviously decision support. We use it for decision of support in which we have an idea and we look to see what does AI think we should do. Decision augmentation. It brings in additional ideas. That's what I was talking about with risk analysis. So we know what our risks are, but we ask AI to come up with more risk. And then decision automation. Now, at this point, we're starting to rely on AI a little bit more because it's starting to do some things, and they're limited things, but we're starting to let it do some things without us stepping in on every piece of it to verify it's happening. And then look at number 4, AI-assisted strategic decisions. So what it's doing, it's analyzing everything that's coming in, making predictions, and that's where the wealth of some of this is going to be, and giving us ideas of what those main ideas should be or main strategic decisions should be. And then number 5, supervised AI decision making. So now that we've put the decisions in a strategic place, we go back to you've got human in the loop because that's such a big deal. Those are going to be the goals and objectives for the organization. And then number 6 is going to be fully autonomous AI. And so anybody who has seen the autonomous vehicles that are driving, and of course they have their own hiccups too, but those fully autonomous AI that's working in those places, we look at it, we laugh at it, but it's going to continue to evolve. It's going to continue to get more proficient and have better efficiency and better effectiveness and not have as many problems. And so we will have some of these things continue to evolve in our lifetime. This is not pie in the sky down the road. We will see more and more of this happening. So when you're doing this, you're wanting to measure what matters. And so you're not just throwing AI at anything, you're putting AI in, and it's a strategic, where is this going to give us a strategic advantage and value? So measure what matters. So a couple of ideas here. So establish a baseline performance metrics, accuracy, error rate, time to completion before integration to quantify the impact. So like for an example, companies right now across the world are really testing it a lot in customer service. So they're building chatbots and they're running through AI, and they're allowing these chatbots to be able to take the initial phone calls of many of customer service. Now, some are better than others. We've all been on there, and you're thinking, give me a person, and they don't seem to understand that. I get it. But the point is, many are actually getting these very, very sophisticated in a sophisticated way to where they can handle a lot of the basic stuff, and then they can also escalate to a real person for many things. Now, our preference a lot of times is just for a real person, but many of these that are actually working the way they should are actually being able to take care of a lot of things and a lot of problems for us. So AI projects do not just change process speed, they can change decision dynamics. I don't have to make those decisions, you are. And so traditional key performance indicators are insufficient. And the reason is because our decision dynamics are going to be different. Some of the smaller, minor problems or minor decisions we might not be making in the future because we're allowing AI to make some of those. We monitor it, but I don't have to make it. That's going to be the piece. Also, metrics must serve a purpose. AI does not create value by being intelligent technology. It creates value by being useful. And so just because it's cool and it's neat to use is not the reason to do this. What value is it going to bring for your project or for your organization in this part of the project or in this part of the process? What changed because of the use of AI? Because something will have to change in order to allow AI to have that kind of impact. Other measurements could be business outcome metrics, reduction in average response time. So if AI can respond to something and get someone something they need and not have to talk to someone and they can do it in seconds, you're going to want that to happen because your competitor will have that. Increase in first contact resolution rate. So if AI is part of that first contact resolution, and so what happens is as soon as they contact us, it recharts where that customer is going and who that customer is going to talk to, and they're going to do it super quick, then that's going to be something that's going to be a positive. Cost per support ticket could go down. Customer satisfaction could go up because they're getting resolutions faster. And then percentage of problems handled without human escalation. That means that AI has taken care of so many of these things and you didn't have to. Now, obviously, AI is not perfect. It's not mankind. It doesn't think. It doesn't do those. It makes predictions based on the algorithms and the models that we're using. And how did we train it? What kind of data did we train it with? So performance and quality metrics, is it working correctly? Well, in some cases it does. Now, you do have model drift and data drift that happens over time in your AI tool. And so if you have used it any time, you maybe have experienced this. And so I have built a chatbot, several chatbots actually, that I've been experimenting with over the last couple of years. And they will all of a sudden not be hitting the mark as they were earlier. And some of that is new data that we're evolving with new data that's coming out that they haven't been exposed to. And then some of it is just that it's just being exposed to the world and it's getting a little different. So I ended up taking one of my chatbots and retrained it and brought it right back to where now it's hitting on all cylinders. But I expect in another 6 or 8 months, maybe sooner, maybe longer, I'm going to have to retrain it again to what I want because once again, it's got the world that it's pulling information from. So it could be error rates we're looking at, confidence scores. We want to be confident in what it's producing, and then consistency over time. And right now, because of data drift and model drift, it changes over time. And so this is not a project that you're going to put in place like a software project and walk away from it, and it's going to do what it's doing today for the next 25 years. It's not going to do that. It's going to change, and it has to have updates, and it's going to have retraining in order to keep bringing it back to the center of what those initial skills and those initial decisions are that you want it to do. Now let's go a little further too. Evidence-based frameworks. This was a great article that came out in 25. So evidence-based frameworks such as the AI Pluralism Index emphasizes the necessity of transparent, audible measurement for evaluating AI systems, impact, and governance. Recent studies recommend developing tailored KPIs, that's key performance indexes, for AI initiatives, metrics for decision, speed, error reduction, innovation, acceleration, and user satisfaction to measure outcomes that extend far beyond traditional return on investment calculations. Now, one of the things that I think is interesting as you look at this is that right now you're noticing that with some of the tools you're playing with. You maybe have noticed that on ChatGPT, one of the settings to allow is ChatGPT 5 thinking, and so you've noticed that it thinks a lot more, but it's a lot more accurate on what it's giving you most of the time. And so that's kind of what they're talking about here. But it's slower. And so you're not getting it in 3 seconds, you're getting it in a minute and a half. But the content of that information, was much more detailed than what you would have gotten with ChatGPT 5 that was just given to you in 3 seconds. So let's talk about some strengthening data foundations. So apply data governance standards that validate input, audit outputs, and ensure quality across the project lifecycle. You've got to have those data standards, you've got to have those data policies, and you've got to protect the data that's in your company and even the data that you're buying from a data warehouse. All of those are going to have to be protected. So if your organization doesn't have this is going to be a project by itself to where you write what is our data policy, what and how can we utilize the data for our organization. The other part would be AI systems are only as good as the data environment that sustains them. So weak data creates biased models, unstable outputs, misleading insights, and risks, and PMOs can absorb. And so no PMO can absorb. So what you're looking at is we're getting bad data. Nobody's going to be part of this if they're getting bad answers, bad recommendations. And you look at it and you think, this is so stupid. I'm not even going to use it. So what happens is you've got all this time and effort in AI, but nobody trusts it. So trust is going to be a big piece of this. For AI, data is no longer a support function, it's a strategic asset. That is the fuel for your AI model. It's going to have to be that data. And so in AI projects, data governance is not a support, it is risk management. Because if you do it wrong, then you're going to have a hiccup over here that's going to make your company liable and maybe even make your customers liable to some of this because people would have access to data they shouldn't. Also, building AI project data governance around these three areas is AI critical discipline. So model-ready data standards. Do we have standards about the model? So you define structured data architectures for AI training, labels, taxonomy, and schemes. Also require version control for AI training data sets. AI output monitoring and auditing. And so you're implementing continuous monitoring to detect model drift. You're establishing AI output validation checkpoints within the project and review processes. So everything that you're putting in for AI, you've got to have some type of monitoring system because you know data drift and model drift is going to happen, and it's going to float out of that center part that you thought you had the model adjusted to because of the training. And so due to new data, new data and evolving data, that's going to cause your model and your data to drift. So you're going to find yourself having to retrain to bring that model right back to center of where you're wanting it. That's going to be a common scenario. Also, all data ownership structure, assigning executive data sponsors for AI projects, aligning AI databases with portfolio governance and policies, creating robust AI data governance to support accurate, transparent, and scalable intelligence. The piece that's a challenge too is transparency. Do we have the transparency with our data? Are we sharing how AI made that decision? So, and the sad thing is, some of the things that we have with AI right now, it's all a black box. You don't know how it's making the data. It's making a prediction, and it might be more of a black box. And so what we're wanting it to be over here a white box. We want to be able to know exactly how it's making a decision. And so, and rightly so, we want that transparency, but you and I might not have that transparency, and we definitely don't have some of it right now. So if you're using ChatGPT, you're mesmerized by the output, but do you know how it got to the output? The answer for me is no. Now, maybe you're smarter than me, and that's good, but I don't know how I got to the answer. I like the answer. I think it's definitely a tool that I want to use, but I don't know how it got to it. That's that transparency and that black box kind of mindset over here. So strengthening the data foundation. So this was an article last year from Berkeley, Computer Science, I thought was good. Academic and industrial studies consistently show that weak or retrofitted data foundations undermine AI success, increasing risk, rework, and time to insight while eroding stakeholder confidence. Models built atop robust, high quality, and well-governed data ensure compliance, explainability, and ultimately transformability. Now, what they're saying here is that it all focuses back on that data. What kind of data are we bringing in? Or are we just kind of throwing data at this? Or do we really have a data plan for how and what we're going to be bringing in? Staying compliant, staying accountable. This was a graphic for data governance. This is built off of ISO 42001. ISO 42001 is the AI lifecycle for risk management. So this is a great ISO text for you to order, but they put a graphic of this, and I thought it was excellent. So you can order your ISO 4201, which is going to give you talk about AI governance. And so if you're doing AI, this would be a great tool for you. So as you look at this, you'll notice that security and privacy, risk strategies and risk management, transparency. Notice it's running the gamut of everything about that AI tool. Notice though, AI impact assessment is really only in the first part of it, because you're looking at how is AI going to impact our processes, our organization, and how is it going to impact our tools. And so it will just be a short piece, and that's going to feed into these other places. But notice everything else is running from the entirety of that AI tool, all the way up from the inception of it to all the way up to retirement. So this is not like any other data project to where you're putting it in place and you're walking away from it, and then when we get ready to renew it or upgrade it, we come back. You are on site and looking at this model continuously all the way until you retire this. So stay compliant, accountable, create a compliance checklist to align AI adoption, legal, regulatory, ethical. We don't want any of these things for AI to go in any wrong direction. And remember, it's going to be based off of what it's being trained on. And so if we're training it like we do ChatGPT, which is being trained on the world right now, it's going out to the internet and it's reading everything on ChatGPT, and then it's regurgitating it for us. Well, do I really think that the world and all the junk that's on the internet is really the best data? Of course not. That's why you're making sure you're selecting the data and getting the right data in there. So creating an AI compliance and accountability framework includes legal accountability, defining liability for AI influenced decisions, ensuring vendor and AI tools include clear indemnification clauses, so that as we're sharing technology and tools with the vendor, that both of us, it's transparent who's using what, and that my vendor's not using our stuff in the wrong way either. I don't want that. You don't either. So ethical AI design protocols. So requires bias testing before deployment. So are we going to use any of this to bring team members together for a certain team? Are we going to use it for hiring? Are we going to use it for any of those pieces? If we are, you have possible violations there. So you got to put a human in the loop to double check that. And also it could document explainability and logic for executive decisions. If they're coming out with their strategic plan or their 5-year plan, and they've got some very strong initiatives that includes AI, there's got to be some justification, and not just AI justifying itself. There's got to be some external justification to be able to go in that direction, because AI is forecasting some of these. Also, AI decision and accountability chains define who owns AI decisions across project life cycles. Now, what we want to do is we want AI to make the decision, give us the recommendations, and then if something goes wrong, well, it's AI, and you can't do that. If you're using AI, it's going to belong to you. You're going to be accountable for the decision, even if it's a bad decision, because that was the resource that we were looking at. So we need to establish escalation paths. There's going to be times where you're going to have to, bring everybody together because AI is not doing what you want it to. And so you find yourself having to pull it back and retrain it in some of these areas. And that means that it feeds into that audit and documentation standards, maintaining AI model logs, storing training and output histories for governance and review. So this is a highly reviewable setting that you're getting ready to create. If you put AI into the role, you've got to have that backside of that to where somebody's monitoring it, somebody's auditing it, and you're looking to see, does it give us some kind of goofy kind of answer? So if you were doing this in healthcare, for an example, and so it kept saying everybody who had a certain type of disease, it kept saying, cut the hand off, cut the hand off. Well, a doctor would look at that and say, man, that makes no sense, because that's not the right output. But the problem is, so many times in business and in projects, we look at that and it might be so close to something that we would do typically, we might not catch it as early as it, or as drastically as you would in healthcare, where it gives you a wrong prognosis, and the doctor goes, man, that's not even close. We've got to be that close on it too, to be able to catch it and say, you know what, that's not the best decision for where we are in our project. The strongest AI programs will not be the most advanced, but the most trusted. And trust is everything with it. Because as you use it, you've got to trust what that output is going to be. And the problem is we have a trust issue across our country with it. For an example, some of you heard me share this. I've shared this in a couple of different places, training, and even on a previous webinar. That in our church we were writing the program on AI about 3 years ago, and so Dieter, I see Dieter on here, buddy. I'm glad to see him on here. And so Dieter and his folks are the people I test my programs with, and so I go to DC every June, have a great time with him and his folks, and so usually it's a new program that nobody else has heard. So I was writing my AI program. I'm getting ready to leave on Monday, and I'm in Sunday school on Sunday morning, and all of a sudden our Sunday school teacher, who's probably close to 77, 78, 80, and he was talking about AI, and he was just kind of ranting about it, not liking it. And so I raised my hand. And I said, "Hey," I said, "you guys probably better put me on the prayer list." I said, because I said, "I've just written a program on AI. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to train this week and train people on artificial intelligence." His position was to get away from it, don't touch it. My position was, let's learn it and then put our guardrails around this thing so that it works for us. But you have people who are just like that. But here's the full circle of this. On Monday, I'm actually training 2 associations here in Missouri who are Baptist pastors. Now, think about this, Baptist pastors. And so I've customized my program to how to use AI in ministry and worship. And so I've got 2 associations of pastors coming in to spend the day learning about AI and how to use it in church or ministry settings. So use it as a tool. Look at it as a tool. It's not perfect, and there are bad stuff, of course, but the internet has bad stuff too. But I would not want to get rid of my internet, and you wouldn't either. So let's go a little further here real quick, okay? So staying compliant and accountable. Research and policy studies. And so the article that came out in 2024 from your U.S. Department of Justice said research and policy studies highlight accountability chains, documentation, disclosures, audits, and red teaming as essential to sustained AI implementation. Recent DOJ guidance and federal policy emphasizes that ethical, transparent, and supervised AI systems are now a non-negotiable compliance requirement. Now, did you catch what it said? That transparency is not nice to have, it's a necessity. Supervised AI is not nice to have. You've got to have humans in the loop watching these things. And so if not, then you're going to be missing something that could hurt someone, or could cause us to be very biased against a population. And none of us are wanting that to happen. All right, so scaling with confidence. This was actually put out by a consultant that I thought was excellent. And so he gave the 12 questions leaders must be asking before scaling AI. And so, so as you look at this, he goes through the who's and who, what, when, where, why, and how. And let me just hit a couple of these because I thought it was excellent. And this was actually, I think, popped up on LinkedIn. And so I've given credit to him. He's at the bottom of it, so you'll see it hopefully on your video too. So he asked, who has authority to override departmental resistance when AI scaling disrupts established workflows? Because AI will change how we do business. Who will be accountable when AI or at scale create unintended business consequences? I thought those are great questions because you're looking at implementing this overall. Let me jump over here to the what. What specific data infrastructure must be rebuilt to handle enterprise-level AI workloads? What governance frameworks will prevent AI sprawl across disconnected business units? And so he did a great job giving 12 questions at a leadership level of looking at AI from a macro version. And so it was excellent. And so anyway, I want you to see that, and you'll have that on the video. All right, scaling with confidence. So we're getting ready to roll this thing out further. So build a structure rollout plan that includes pilot testing, KPI tracking, stakeholder buy-in, and organizational scaling. Scaling an AI project means moving it from successful localized solution to a repeatable enterprise-wide capability. So when we talk about this, you're wanting to put it someplace and test it and work with it to where you always have control of it. And then as you roll it out, you have more trust. You've learned from that initial pilot as you've started doing this. And so it allows you to be able then to expand your use cases and expand how and what it's going to be doing. Many organizations succeed in AI pilots but fail in enterprise deployment. And the reason that most of this happens is because we're using certain types of information for the pilot. We've kind of hand selected that. And nothing wrong with that. That's fine. You maybe have hand selected it to how you're going to train it. And then all of a sudden, when you put it in full force, it's pulling from real data that doesn't have it's not perfect in all these ways. And so that becomes a real challenge. The missing element's not strategy, it's orchestration. AI scaling is not technical scaling, it's organizational integration. And you've got integration that you're going to have to work through culture and different processes and different rules for how you're going to be able to fix some of this. All right, scaling with confidence. You adopt a 4-stage AI project scaling model. So let me hit this very quickly here. So first off, anything you're going to do with AI, you're not wanting just to implement it, you want to put it into some type of pilot. So you pick the pilot, develop a narrow AI use case, validate the model behavior and human interaction for that, put it into play right there. If that's successful, then you're able to go on to the other steps. So AI value validation, you compare baseline versus AI enhanced outcomes. You refine the model based on stakeholder and decision maker feedback. So we've taken the pilot now, and it has been an input into looking at how we're going to roll it out across the organization. What areas are going to be good, what are not going to be that great. The third one would be horizontal AI expansion. You apply the model across similar project types or domains. You standardize the data pipelines, the governance, the reporting. And so in other words, your culture, your processes here are similar to this. And so now you're able to scale it over here and start using it somewhere else. And then over time, AI institutionalization. You embed AI into the actual project management office and project framework. This is a tool you are using for this, and people are able across the organization to use it. You train leadership in AI decision literacy, and you formalize AI into that portfolio governance to where people understand AI is a tool for this. You've seen Project Management Institute using their AI tool, and it's really started picking up speed because the trust of it has gone way up. In healthcare, the trust of how they're using AI has gone so high with catching things that maybe doctors would not have caught that they're utilizing. You see project managers implementing AI in almost every hospital and every type of research center for that to be able to find that disease earlier. Let's go a little further here. So if AI is not inside your governance model, it's outside your control. And so this is something we have to understand. Many people are wanting to buy services, and I get that. It's cheaper. It's going to be cheaper and faster and get you up and going. But just remember, you don't have control of that data if you're buying a service. They do. And so that means that if something's going haywire internally, you might not have the ability to fix it. They'd have to. And so you're always having to weigh that balance. Not that it couldn't be cheaper and better and you're getting it through the cloud. I get it. But remember, they're the ones in control of it typically, not you. So this was a scaling article that came out last year. So when scaling AI, so your scaling means scaling it across your organization, evidence points to the paradox of confidence versus accuracy. Larger, more sophisticated models deliver higher accuracy, but often lower apparent confidence, while smaller, less capable models may give overconfident but unreliable results. So it depends on what you're wanting, and it is a balancing act. And so in other words, how confident am I that this is the real information that's sending out? Once again, the hallucinations we talked about. AI has the ability to create a bona fide solution that's not real and give you quantifiable information that might not be real. So you've got to be able to get this to a point in that balance to where you feel like you're getting real information. So benchmarking and transparent evaluation is going to be a piece of it. We've got to be able to know all of this so that we can always reduce that bias and not be constantly looking at it thinking that it's 100% right. It's not 100% right. Okay, so let's talk about some of the challenges real quick. So I gave you 8 of these real quick to look at rolling out AI, okay? So you're looking at data challenges. Do we have the right data? What's it going to take to get it all fixed up? Talent and skill gaps. Many people don't have these skills yet. So this is going to be some new hires, data scientists, data engineers. You'll be bringing in more and more of these people. Some folks are just going to be resistant to change. They're scared to death of AI. And so, and we should be cautious. Don't mistake what I'm saying. I mean, I'm a proponent of AI, but we do need the guardrails. We need government to act and put some stipulations on there. And we need companies to act and put those stipulations on. But I still think it needs to be there. But we need those stipulations. We need those on the internet as well. The internet is awesome, but it's got bad stuff. AI is awesome, but it's got bad stuff too. So we have to have those perimeters. So resistance to change, ethical and biased claims. We're fearful we're going to lose our job, fearful somebody's going to take it over. And the truth is there will be jobs that will be taken, no doubt about it. Just like with internet, there's jobs that have now been taken. But There's also been jobs that have been created because of it. So integration with existing systems. This is going to be a huge hill here. Will AI work with our internal system, especially an old system that we have not updated? Maybe, maybe not. Governance, security, compliance. We've got to be able to protect our internal data. We got to be able to protect our customer data. We've got to be able to have all the securities there. Measuring value, return on investment. How are we going to know for sure it's really helping us and not just a new tool or not just new technology? And then, of course, you'll have cost and resource constraints because we can't afford everything. We don't have billions to put into some of this. We're putting it in and we're starting to use it, and we're trying to make sure it brings value to us. All right, so challenges, I gave you that. So let's start with the first one, data challenges. AI is only as strong as the data. We've talked about that. Second bullet point, poor data quality, incomplete, inconsistent, or biased data leads to unreliable outcomes. And so because it's pulling, that's the pot of information it's pulling from is that data. So everything about this hinges on data. That is our foundation for this. So data silos, information locked across departments prevents AI systems from seeing the full picture. And we have that. Many of you have data in one department, but the other department doesn't have access to it. And it might be a legal deal. But the point is, it's still data about the company that we don't have. Insufficient data can be there. And then encouraging insight, investing in better data practices. You will revamp your data policies. You will revamp what you save. You will revamp how you save it. You'll start saving it more in a supervised manner to where you've got this labeled and customized so that AI will be able to read this. And there will be AI tools that will help you label your data and get it from unsupervised to supervised. Talent and skills. Let's hit this very quickly. So it requires specialized skills that are still in short supply. Data engineering, data scientists, there's not going to be enough if every company jumped on board. So limited availability of experienced AI talent, just getting your people educated in it. Skill gaps in existing teams. We don't know what to do. So for an example, I'm adjusting one of the graduate programs that I teach at Liberty, and I'm putting 2 AI activities in there. And one of those that I put in there is for them to use AI to actually build a training program for their team to be able to train their people up on project management and artificial intelligence. And so that will probably come out later this summer when the change actually hits place. But I put it in for approval. Why? Because I want the people going through my class to be able to experiment with AI. Now, obviously, it's just an activity or two. But the point is that many of them have no experience with AI. They hear about it, but they're not using it for anything. So over-reliance on a few experts, encouraging insight. Organizations that focus on training their current people often build more sustainable success than those who only hire externally. You're going to have a pool of people internally because you can't hire a consultant for everything, okay? You can't. It's going to cost you a fortune. So you've got to be able to start deciding what is that next layer of people I need to hire. Data engineers, data scientists, people who have AI experience. And you're wanting to start building some of that pool if you're going in this direction. And many of you I know already are. Resistance to change. Technology shifts can create fear, and that's what we see. Employees may feel threatened or replaced. We're seeing that. Leaders may not fully understand AI's capabilities or limits. A lot of times leaders will look at this as very simple. It's like software development, and it's much more complicated than this and has a much bigger realm of hurting us if things go wrong, but helping us if things go right. Cultural resistance can slow adoption. Encouraging insight when leaders communicate clearly, include people in the process. Resistance often turns into engagement. And so what you're wanting to do is talk about this. Are there places in our organization that this is going to be a wealth of help for us, that's going to save us money and cause us to be able to use this in a very powerful way? And so ethical and bias. So AI can unintentionally reinforce unfairness. So for an example, if we're using AI to hire people, it could actually hire more women, less women, younger people, older people. It can discriminate from any side based on the data that was given it. So people might not get a fair shake. So that's why you want a human in the loop. You want people who are being hired by your company to get a fair shake, and not for a tool to be culling out some group of people. None of us want that. Nobody wants that. So lack of transparency in decision making. We've already talked about that. Potential for harmful or discriminatory outcomes. We've talked about that. And then encouraging insight would be ethical design and regular audits to help protect both people and organizations. We want AI to be ethical and fair, but I do want AI to be here. I want it to help us. I want to make suggestions. And we're going to take some and we're going to reject some. And you know what? All that's okay because it's a tool coming alongside us in making some of these decisions. So integration with some of the existing systems. Let's talk about that for just a slide here or two. So many organizations underestimate how difficult it's going to be to blend AI to the current operations and current internal systems. And some of this is because we've got such old systems, and some of this is because we don't have the foundation of data. It's in such a hodgepodge kind of fashion. And so legacy systems may not support AI tools. And so when people are trying to go to that, that might be one of the big hurdles they have. This tool is so old that as we start bringing AI in, the recommendations from AI are going to be skewed because it's such an old system. Complex workflows cause implementation delays, high integration and maintenance costs. Encouraging insight could be that starting small with pilot project makes the integration more manageable, but you're going to have to face off on some legacy system unless you happen to have nothing but new systems. That's awesome, but most of us don't. Everybody has that. We have that legacy system that's still in place, that's still being used because of cost. It costs so stinking much to change it, so it's going to be there. Governance, security, and compliance. We've hit it very loosely. Let's hit it one more time. AI introduces new risks around data privacy and security, increased exposure to cyber threats, regulatory uncertainty, data privacy compliance challenges, and encouraging insight would be to strong governance frameworks would provide stability and confidence. This is where we're lagging behind. The government needs to be coming out with some stipulations about AI, but your company absolutely, even if government never did, your company needs to and does and should, and it's going to evolve. The guidelines that your company puts into place need to be there, and people need to be following that. So when you build your models, your AI models and algorithms, they're following and supporting that to the best of their ability. And that's what you're wanting to have happen. And then what you're doing is measuring value and return on investment. Many organizations struggle to define success. What is success? The model's working, or is it success that it's doing what we thought it would do? It allows us not to have people doing these mundane things. So unclear performance, misaligned goals between technical and business teams, long return on investment timelines. AI might take years for you to get all your money back because there's so much unknown as you're putting it into place. Clear objectives, simple success measures keeps AI efforts focused and credible, but this is still an evolving technology. And what we're working with today and playing with today in ChatGPT and Gemini and Copilot and all of these, if you've done it for the last 3 years since they've been out, you already see we've got a different type of model and tool that we're working with today than 3 years ago. And so it does far more today than what it did. And so I can anticipate that in 3 more years, guess what? It's doing far more than it's doing today. And so it's a very fascinating tool. So measuring value is an important piece because we have so many unclear performance metrics. What is it that you really want AI to do, and how are you going to measure it? You've got to talk about that how. And then that's going to help you set the proper goals up. And then, of course, you can look for that long-term investment for you. So cost and resource constraints. So as we look at cost and resource, AI isn't just a software expense. It includes infrastructure, maintenance, and people, because you're going to have people working it, and you're going to have retrain this periodically. So you're going to have maintenance on this. High initial investment, possibly ongoing cloud and computing costs, time and resource strains on the teams, because once again, it's not something you're doing and walk away. You're going to constantly be coming back to it and monitoring it. And so a phased approach sometimes helps organizations reduce risk and manage costs better, because you're able to put it into place that's safer, get it working, get your people learning about it, and then you're able to expand and go and use it someplace else. And so that's typically going to be a little better for you. Now, before I go into this, let me make some suggestions to you. You're listening to me, I know, today, and we're talking about AI, and maybe you're an expert in AI. I get it. I have people who are experts in AI. But if you're not messing with it at all, you need to at least get you a free subscription to ChatGPT and start playing with this. And Don't put any personal information in. Don't put any personal information in about projects, but start playing some of the scenarios with ChatGPT and with Gemini, with Claude, with some of these tools that have free subscriptions, and just look and see what you put in and what comes out. It's not question driven, even though a lot of people do that. It's really you write your scenario, give it a paragraph, and that's called a prompt, and write that scenario and put it in there for a situation and ask it for recommendations. And you'll be shocked at how good some of this stuff is that comes out. It's not perfect. It's only a draft, and it's not making a decision. It's making predictions, but it will be fascinating for you to be able to start playing with this. And then what happens is you start feeling a little more comfortable because once again, you've had some exposure to it. So let me close out here and show you a couple of things. So I've got a few of the webinars listed. Those of you who sign up one by one, next month we're going to be talking about leading renewal, guiding projects toward fresh beginnings, how to be able to re-engage your project and how to renew it. April, we're going to talk about strategic visionaries, guiding portfolios toward future value and creation. And portfolios is driving the programs which drive our projects. So portfolios will be a piece. And then in May, we're going to talk about AI as your project leader assistant. So we're going to focus on it from that assistant standpoint. Quick drafts, rapid brainstorming, efficient content creation. I haven't written this one yet, so I'll be working on that in the next few weeks. And then in June, we're talking about making it stick, ensuring lessons learned become lessons applied. And so lessons learned are retrospectives over on the Agile side, are two that are really, really heavy. And then in July, I'm talking about inventing tomorrow's metrics, shaping the future of project management. What we're measuring today, especially if you put AI in, you're going to be measuring something totally different. So we're going to talk about those metrics in that July webinar. Let me close out with a couple of other things. Free mastermind. If you have people who are getting ready to wanting to take their PMP, we do a free mastermind group. This is 5 days long. They spend about 30 minutes a day for those 5 days, costs them nothing, but they start filling out their application. They do some practice questions. I do 2 Zoom calls to answer questions for them. And so plus they get a discount to the boot camp if they decide to come. So we've got a free one in May, a free one in September. And so like I said, 5 days, but it's really only about 30 minutes a day for 5 days. And so they're able to get some content and context of how to do and what's going to happen with the PMP. And so, and we look at their application if they can fill it out at this time, but we just answer a lot of questions for them with these Zoom calls. So we have that. Put your people in there. That will help them. And then we're still doing our virtual PMP exam prep courses every other month. So we have some April, June, August, October, and December, and we can still come on site and do one at your location. And so if you have 10 people, we will bring it on site and do it at your location, or we can do a virtual and do it for just your people. So it's just a matter of you contacting Wanda and letting her know. And so if I can help you in other ways, please don't hesitate to call me. And so you've got the 800 number and our website, and I'd be glad to help you in any way possible, okay? And so I hope this has been beneficial to you as you think about it. I know many of you are already involved in doing AI and working with AI. And so I hope that this has been something beneficial with you. And so God bless you, and I'll see you next month then, okay? So y'all take care. Wonderful. Have a wonderful week, and thank you, guys.